Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the controversy surrounding Jimmy Fallon? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the controversy, then offer my analysis. James Thomas Fallon was born on September 19, 1974, in Brooklyn, New York. He goes by the name Jimmy. When he was young, his family moved to Saugerties, New York, which is about 2.5 hours north of Brooklyn. Jimmy originally wanted to be a Roman Catholic priest, but changed his mind in favor of a career in comedy. He became obsessed with the TV series Saturday Night Live and would even reenact sketches performed on the show. Jimmy became a class clown, liked doing impersonations, played the guitar, and was featured in high school plays. After graduating from high school in 1992, he attended college in Albany, New York. In 1995, he gave up on college one semester prior to graduation, although it's worth noting that he returned to college 14 years later and earned his degree. After dropping out, Jimmy moved to Los Angeles, California, in order to embark on his comedy career. He performed stand-up comedy and had a few very small parts in various movies. He auditioned for the show Saturday Night Live twice. He was rejected the first time, but accepted the second time. Jimmy was featured on the show starting in September 1998. He quickly became extremely popular. For example, fans responded well to his impressions of celebrities. According to another cast member, Jimmy drank alcohol on occasion during the time he was employed on the show, but it didn't seem to interfere with his performance. Jimmy stayed on the show until 2004 and then pursued a career in the movies. His first two films, Taxi and Fever Pitch, didn't perform too well at the box office. This represented a tough time for Jimmy. He increased his consumption of alcohol. In 2009, Jimmy started a new job as the host of Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. The audience wasn't necessarily thrilled with his performance in the beginning, but over time, he became more popular. In 2014, Jimmy became the host of The Tonight Show, taking it over from Jay Leno. At the time making this video, Jimmy is still the host of The Tonight Show, although there is a writer's strike going on in Hollywood, so the show is not in production. Now moving to the timeline of the controversy. On September 7, 2023, Rolling Stone released an article titled Chaos, Comedy, and Crying Rooms Inside Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show. 14 former employees and 2 current employees were interviewed about Jimmy Fallon's behavior and other circumstances related to The Tonight Show. What they revealed about Jimmy wasn't particularly flattering. Here is a summary of the article. The Tonight Show was a toxic workplace and had a, quote, pretty glum atmosphere, unquote. After Jimmy transitioned from Late Night with Jimmy Fallon to The Tonight Show, the pressure to perform increased. Over the course of 9 years, 6 different leadership teams were in charge of the production. This led to chaos and people losing faith in the leadership. No one was willing to stand up to Jimmy. People never told him no. On a few occasions, Jimmy appeared to be under the effects of alcohol. It could be smelled on his breath, and sometimes he would show up to work suffering from what appeared to be a hangover. Jimmy had a reputation of being erratic and expressing a maladaptive temperament. He would berate employees, become irritated over small issues, snap at crew members, and leave passive-aggressive notes. The crew came to realize that sometimes Jimmy was in a good mood and sometimes he was in a bad mood. These two states were distinct and had a profound effect on people who worked there. The crew would talk about the experience using the terms good Jimmy days and bad Jimmy days. During one incident, as he was interviewing Jerry Seinfeld, Jimmy admonished a crew member who was managing the cue cards. Jimmy apologized to the crew member after Jerry Seinfeld told him to. It's worth noting that Jerry Seinfeld made a statement to Rolling Stone indicating that he remembered the incident well. He suggested it was not an uncomfortable situation and the events had been twisted. In 2017, another incident allegedly occurred during rehearsal. There was an audience present at this time. Jimmy crossed out jokes on a piece of paper, talked to the audience briefly, then looked back down at the paper, as if he didn't realize he was the one who had just crossed out the jokes. He appeared to be intoxicated. This unpleasant work environment at The Tonight Show took its toll on employees. Some left after experiencing mental health difficulties. Various symptoms were reported, like fear, anxiety, nightmares, thinning hair, and weight loss. Some people even had thoughts of bringing an end to their own lives. Due to concerns about retaliation, employees did not feel as though they could say anything. Those who did go to human resources to complain found themselves terminated not long after. Some tried to improve their situation by going to therapy. Another tactic was to go to the dressing rooms and release their emotions. They referred to these locations as the crying rooms. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. What is my impression of Jimmy Fallon? This is just a theory, my opinion. Jimmy Fallon strikes me as someone who is sincere, motivated, sensation-seeking, and highly influenced by his emotions. He had great success as a cast member on Saturday Night Live and as a talk show host, but he's not a great actor. There's the sense that Jimmy functions best when his emotions are congruent with the expected outward expression in a performance. The emotions are never that far under the surface. When Jimmy is performing, his feelings match the performance. For example, when Jimmy was on Saturday Night Live, he would often laugh during the sketches. Many cast members have done this, but Jimmy was known for it. He did it so often it was actually a liability for him. Both Jimmy and the show's management wished he could stop. I think this demonstrates that Jimmy wasn't simply performing. He was feeling the routine. He was laughing along with the audience. This emotional experience is not necessarily helpful for being an actor because they have to play a character even if they can't feel the way the character is supposed to feel. But for Jimmy's career path, this tendency could impart some advantage. It makes him come across as authentic and enthusiastic. People can tell that he's not faking it. He is genuinely enjoying himself when he performs. Jimmy's style on The Tonight Show differs from the hosts of the past. He uses a lot of music, dancing, and games. It is a high-energy show. As a host, Jimmy is personable, goofy, charismatic, and appears to be a fan of the celebrities he is interviewing. Other Tonight Show hosts recognize their own celebrity status, but Jimmy downplays his fame. This is endearing to many viewers. Item number 2. Based on many different reports in the media, Jimmy appears to have an alcohol problem. Several years ago, the executives at NBC had serious concerns that his drinking was out of control and something bad could happen. In 2015, Jimmy was involved in a fall that caused serious injury. He tripped over a rug and reached for a countertop as he was falling. His wedding ring became caught on the edge of the counter, and his finger was almost torn off. Some people have wondered if this was an alcohol-related event. About 4 months later, Jimmy fell on a bottle of alcohol and injured his other hand. No one should be surprised over concerns about their drinking behavior when they literally fall on a bottle of alcohol. As I mentioned, the Rolling Stone article featured reports from people who smelled alcohol on Jimmy's breath at work. I think it is reasonable to believe that Jimmy has had difficulty regulating his intake of alcohol. Item number 3. Are the allegations contained in the Rolling Stone article consistent with working for someone who has a drinking problem? In my opinion, they are consistent. One thing that really stands out is the description of good Jimmy days and bad Jimmy days. There is this sense that the Tonight Show workers are under stress, in part because they simply don't know what to expect on any given day. This is one of the worst type of work environments for mental health. Of course, a person can be harmful without drinking, but regardless of the cause, the erratic, impulsive, and hostile behavior is terrible for employees. The Tonight Show almost sounds like a dysfunctional family being run by a person with an alcohol problem. Jimmy is in this position of tremendous power. He's critical to the success of the show, and people who work there know they must keep him happy. His alleged maladaptive behavior is a worst-case scenario for the employees. Rolling Stone said they contacted over 80 current and former Tonight Show employees through the course of their investigation. Many of them said that Jimmy was talented, but no one had positive things to say about their time working on The Tonight Show. This is quite revealing about the conditions on the show and just how destructive the environment may have been. Item number 4. On the same day that the Rolling Stone article was published, September 7, 2023, Jimmy Fallon had a Zoom call with show employees. According to 2 people who were on the call, Jimmy reacted to the article. He stated that he did not intend to create that type of atmosphere for the show. He said, quote, "It's embarrassing and I feel so bad. Sorry if I embarrassed you and your family and friends. I feel so bad I can't even tell you," unquote. Jimmy went on to say that he wanted the show to be fun, inclusive, and that it should be the best show. This reaction is a positive sign. Often when powerful people are confronted about their bad behavior, they act out and look for revenge, but Jimmy seemed to be genuinely concerned about his employees. Unfortunately, not everybody in a leadership position had the same reaction as Jimmy, which brings me to item number 5. The showrunner, Chris Miller, sent an email to the Tonight Show employees, which stated, quote, "I wanted to make you all aware of an online story that just hit on rollingstone.com that includes past allegations of inappropriate behavior at the show. While I know the reporter reached out to many of you before the piece ran, I don't believe what's written is reflective of the overall culture of our extraordinary team that I'm so lucky and proud to work with every day. The place described in the article is not the place that I know," unquote. Chris suggested that the article did not capture the positive and inclusive environment of the show and encouraged employees to report any concerns to him, their managers, or human resources. I think one of the problems is that the employees don't feel comfortable doing that. This is why it's such a bad idea for companies to fire people after they make reports to HR. This is a common tactic, often rooted in immaturity, that always backfires for the company in the long run. It creates an environment that is frightening and hostile. The leadership of The Tonight Show is now under scrutiny, so their behavior will probably be good for a while. Unfortunately for the employees, it won't last forever. Item number 6. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. When Jimmy Fallon was young, he dreamed of being a star. Through hard work and comedic talent, he realized his dream. Being the host of The Tonight Show was a thrill. Jimmy tried to make the show more exciting than it had been previously. His enthusiasm was clearly communicated through his behavior. Unfortunately, the benefits of being successful, famous, and wealthy were not enough for Jimmy. His sensation-seeking was difficult to overcome, and alcohol entered his life. Sometimes his use wasn't too disruptive, but eventually it became a real problem. Jimmy's tendency to have intense emotions left him a little bit self-centered. From his perspective, if he felt something, it must be true. If he was feeling good, then everything was good. This meant that Jimmy was missing signs of distress in other people. Not all the employees at The Tonight Show were having fun. The toxic work environment may have been caused by alcohol, but it was permitted to continue due to Jimmy's lack of insight. Now moving to my final thoughts. Is there hope for the Tonight Show employees? Can they have a peaceful work environment someday? I think there is some hope because Jimmy appears to be embarrassed by what happened. If he follows his feelings, as he usually does, he will respond to the controversy as a wake-up call. Being contrite and polite could turn the Tonight Show into a delight overnight. If Jimmy seeks to be uptight and fight like he's right with all his might, he will invite the Tonight Show to become a frightful sight. Those are my thoughts on the controversy surrounding Jimmy Fallon. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.